Hello friends, I hope you're having a good day. A freilichen Erev Shabbos. Tonight is Shabbos. It's been one of the hardest weeks for the Jewish people in memory, and Shabbos is a time for tranquility. Shabbos is a time for peace. Shabbos is a time for hope, for relaxation. But how could we enter Shabbos when our brothers and sisters are under so much uncertainty and are in such a worrisome, challenging time? You know, they say the story, and I used to laugh about this, but unfortunately it's true, that when God was giving out the countries, He was giving out the things, He was sitting with the angels and says, listen, I'm giving the people of Israel, I'm giving them this land with luscious valleys, beautiful fields and mountains, and so on, and God's going on, and one of the angels says, listen, God, why are you giving all this to one people? Why don't you spread the wealth? And God looked at the angels and says, relax. He says, wait till you see the neighbors I'm giving them. How true. How much Israel has suffered from its neighbors every time we stretch out our hand in peace, with love, with dignity, with warmth, with joy. We get paid back with hate, with bullets, with guns, with rockets, with incitement. How do we enter the Shabbos, the holy day of Shabbos, coming after watching such a week of horror? And the answer, of course, comes from this week's Torah portion. In this week's Torah portion, we read about the Jewish people and how they dwelled next to the Mishkan, the tabernacle, when they traveled in the desert for 40 years. And the rabbis tell us that each one had their individuality. Each of the tribes had their corner. There were 12 tribes, 4 were on each side. Everyone had their own flag. We each had our own individuality. But Saviv la Mishkan Yachanu, the rabbis tell us that ultimately what brought the Jews together, what gave them hope, what gave them tranquility, what gave them faith, was Saviv la Machne Yachanu. They all had one direction, one goal. It was their faith in the Almighty. They each sat on one side, but all of them faced God, faced the tabernacle. Our faith, our hope is because we know that God is with us. I once heard this most remarkable story of a rabbi who went for Yom HaShoah, for the Holocaust Day. He went to Israel, and he was in Israel, and he came to the Holocaust Museum. He wanted to visit it. He came specially for that, and he's in the Holocaust Museum, and they have this video, I think it's from Steven Spielberg, where he took videos and documentaries of all the people while they were still alive. One of the greatest things Steven Spielberg did that we can never forget, with so many Holocaust deniers, that we should have the testimony of those who witnessed the Holocaust. And there's this girl who's in her IDF soldier. She's a Navy soldier. She has her big boots. She has her medals. She must be 21. And she's standing there watching the video of this guy talking, a Holocaust survivor. But she keeps on crying and crying, and she waits till it comes again, and there's tears rolling down her ears. And finally this rabbi is so moved, and he comes over to her and he says, tell me, why are you crying so much? It seems like it's something very personal. There's so many different survivors speaking on this video, but you seem to be stuck on this person. And she says to him in Hebrew, Zeh Atraat, do you see? Zeh Asaba Shali. This is my grandfather. And I cry because I see how much hate there is, and how many people want to annihilate us. And the rabbi looks at her and he says, yes, it's hard, it's painful, and sometimes it looks the same. Aval hasaf acheret. The ending is different. And she says, what do you mean? What are you saying? And he looks at her, you, a Jewish girl, b'chof hayam, b'tzva hagana l'Yisrael, in the IDF Navy, shomeret, who's watching on the Jewish people. Asuf Acheret. Yes, we never forget the Holocaust, but we know that now we have you with your boots protecting us and protecting the Jewish people. And every time I hear that story, I think about it. I think about the remarkable thing that one of the things that the people, especially the as they would call them, the threesome in America, the three women who constantly bash Israel. And they say, oh, but look, Israel has such a strong army. And that's what all the enemies, the Trevor Noahs, they say Israel has such a strong army. And look at them, they're so powerful. They have tanks and they have missiles. And I think to myself, really? What do you think? You think we're going back to the Holocaust when we can't defend ourselves? Those days are over. Asוף, אחרת. At the end of the day, we will defend ourselves. We will use our might, and we're not shy about it. We don't have to be bashful over the fact that we're powerful and that we're able to protect ourselves. That's the one thing we have that the Jews in the Holocaust didn't have. And if we don't remember what happened in 1942. Remember, if they only would have bombed those trains going to Auschwitz, how many Jews they could have saved if they would have bombed the railroads. But no one did it. The world watched. By the time they came to help us, 6 million were killed. But today, הסוף, אחרת, the ending is different. Because we're not embarrassed that we have the strongest army. We're not embarrassed that we're stronger than Iran and Hezbollah and Syria and Hamas and all these terrorists that want to kill us. We're proud of it. And we know that those boots, those Jewish souls, are Kedoshim, they're holy ones, are protecting not just the Jewish people in Israel, but the Jewish people all over the world. And remember how we come into Shabbos. Shabbos is the time of peace. It's a time of faith. It's a time of tranquility. It's a time of hope. Let's remember that our faith in Hashem allows us to have strength and conviction. And despite the darkness, despite the odds, despite the adversaries, we will prevail and be even stronger. If we go in with that faith to Shabbat, and we celebrate and we make Kiddush, and women light Shabbos candles, men wrap tefillin before Shabbos, do an extra mitzvah for Israel, as the email I sent out today, we shall and will prevail. And for all those that you want, we're going to have a solidarity prayer tomorrow in Shul. Services at 10:30. And at 11:30 at the Torah, we will make a special solidarity prayer for the Holy Land of Israel. And we will sing that the Jewish people, Achenu B'nai Yisrael, our brothers and sisters in Israel, that are in a time of trouble or challenge, God should take them out of their troubles and should bring them redemption and salvation and hope and joy. Shabbat Shalom. Make sure to do a mitzvah and celebrate Shabbos with faith and dignity.